And we're live. And we're going. Okay.
Woo!
Woo! Alright. Welcome to another episode of Prose and Pain. The show where we read adult fiction of varying quality and dubious content. And we give our true and honest reactions while we do it. So I'm Melinda. This is my co-host Sonia.
Hello.
Yeah. We are two writers from Australia with an interest in romance and a master's in bitching. And today we're reading.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Today we're reading "Seduced" by the Wall Street Werewolf by C.J. Howard. After
Oh, I'm so excited.
we struggled last time with Rough and Ready.
Oh boy. Hopefully there's significantly less rape this time. That would be delightful.
Hopefully. So that's just the last important piece of housekeeping. If someone happens to be watching this live stream, watching it live along with us, we don't know what we're about to read. We can't give accurate content warnings up top. But if you're watching it later on, there should be content warnings written in the video description. Last time we came across just so much sexual assault and rape and violence, and it was really uncomfortable.
I don't think the content warning fit on one line. It was pretty long.
It was pretty long. Plus we had, issues of, racial depictions.
Race.
Yes. That was a whole thing. So yes, we'll give it our best try to describe the stuff that's happening in this one. I don't foresee this one being so violent, just from what I know of it already.
I'm not going to make any assumptions, but here's hoping. Fingers crossed. I mean, the Wall Street part makes me think that maybe it'll be a little more, like, classy, but also it is Wall Street, so it's full of douchebags, so who knows.
And a werewolf. Like, werewolves are generally pretty, intrinsically violent.
Yes. By nature, usually, yes. And, oh, no, I was about to say not in Twilight, but no, in Twilight they were pretty bad too. Because,
Twilight
gotta make the Native Americans violent.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, they did. But I was thinking, like, it also has the guy who was so angry when the love of his life, his imprintee, rejected him that he turned into a wolf and ripped half of her face off. And then they ended up together.
And she
anyway.
was like, "I've changed my mind now. Marry me."
Yep.
Good job, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm. I got no words.
Well,
for that.
anyway. Now that we've got our usual bitching about Twilight out of the way, shall I start us on chapter 1?
Absolutely. Let us start. So we're starting chapter 1, Seduced by the Wall Street Werewolf by C.J. Howard.
Oh goodness, okay, we're off to a great start here. Her skin was smooth as marble. Her glistening hair was like silk. Her breasts were the size of melons. And what type of melon? Because that's important. Are they like rock melon sized or are they watermelon sized? Because that's a big difference.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Honeydew. They're honeydew melons.
Honeydew melons.
I also want to know, are they the size of a melon each, or is it like a melon cut in two and put on your chest? Is it?
You know what? Call C.J. Howard and ask. I don't know. And the soft flesh of them filled my hands perfectly. So they're not that big because they're just like filling. Anyway.
Depends on the size of the melon. Maybe it's not a fully grown melon.
I feel like we're getting too hung up on the melons. This is the second sentence. This is the third sentence, technically, because
only because the first
there
two
were
sentences
two very
are about
short
5
sentences.
words. Yes.
Yes, there is that. Her legs were long and toned, and the way they spread for me was wonderfully inviting. Her buttocks had a delightful curve to them, and I loved the way she moaned when my hands rubbed them. I don't want to say the word. Okay.
Do it. You can do it.
Her pussy was like a hot swamp, the walls of it hugging my cock exquisitely. Oh god,
Nothing
that's forever
sexier
on
than
the
a
internet.
swamp. Nothing sexier than a swamp, ever.
Get into my swamp! Sorry.
I will not make a Shrek reference. I will not make a Shrek reference.
That was what I was going for. Externally, she was the perfect woman, but there was no animal inside her. It's probably a good thing.
That's called bestiality. Thank you, Senator Hill. We had enough of that last week.
That is no good for me. I'd already forgotten her name again. Oh god, this is the guy from the fucking Mister.
Sounds like.
She was that girl from Human Resources who, according to Theo, had been pursuing me for a while. Like so many women did. Oh, just so many. Oh. So I'd finally agreed to take her out for a few drinks, just to see where things went. Her company for the evening wasn't unpleasant, I'll give her that at least. Her voice was easy to listen to, which is more than I can say of some women. She was decent enough to look at, there was no question about that. But it had taken me all of 10 seconds after meeting her to decide that she would never be anything more than a pleasant distraction. Everything I needed to know about her was in the coy way she invited me for drinks, the happy schoolgirl smile she gave me when I accepted. The beast that I was looking for was not present in her.
Yikes.
Okay? She was a squirrel at best.
Oh no!
And squirrels were only good as a snack. Oh, squirrel lady,
poor
no!
squirrel lady.
Leave squirrel lady alone.
I love how these books often start with the description of the guys, like he was just so not into this woman, so he only slept with her. Just like,
yeah, I guess I'll have sex with her if I must.
How
oh, such an inconvenience.
Are these guys actually incapable of like not liking someone and then not sleeping with them?
No, just may as well, because why not?
It's not exactly painting a good picture, you know? The idea of, oh, I actively dislike you, but I'll use you as a masturbation aid, essentially, for a hot minute.
You're not interested in someone who refers to your pussy as a hot swamp?
Refers to her as a squirrel!
Alright. Where are we? So, I was taking what pleasure I could get out of her. I used her hips as handholds as I thrust into her. I savored the soft cushion of her ass as they impacted my hips repeatedly. She behaved as much like an animal as someone like her was capable of. She howled out her ecstasy in time with my thrusting, and her fingers gripped the sheets like the sharpest claws.
No, okay.
This writing, man.
Wait,
but it was all just an imitation.
Wait. Is she an animal or isn't she? Is she gripping them with sharp claws or is she a squirrel?
Behaved as much like an animal as someone like her was capable of. This is the same energy as like I love you as much as someone like me can love anyone. Like points to whoever listens to this and gets that reference. Like the sharpest claws. That's okay. It was all just an imitation, so she's imitating an animal. So obviously she's not an animal, she's just imitating one. There's a difference.
Would he like her more if he howled? If she howled? She started barking in bed. Well, you're like, oh yeah.
She's howling. She's howling out her ecstasy, apparently. Yikes. So I don't know what he wants. Like she's howling, she's clawing. What else defines her as animalistic?
Just say you don't have good chemistry with her and leave it at that, you asshole.
At one point, she tried turning her head back to look at me. I wasn't going to have that. I reached out and grabbed her by the hair and pulled. She rolled with it, letting her head be yanked back and closing her eyes as she continued to roar. These are all animal verbs.
Yeah, and you're not just painting the animalistic picture, you're actually painting her in an animalistic light. Like, yeah, she turns to look at him, you grab her hair and violently pull her head forwards. That, if she goes with it, that's a pretty animalistic action. Like that says,
apparently.
Yeah, that says I'm an animal and I'm loving this rough sex right now. What do you want?
In fact, I think she was getting off on my roughness, but I wasn't doing it to be rough. Then what were you doing it to be?
An asshole.
There was a reason I favored doggy style with women like her. I didn't want to have to look in her face and be reminded of everything she wasn't.
Oh!
You're such a dick!
Oh my god! And this is the opening scene!
Sorry, please listen to the wording of this next sentence. I fucked her to an orgasm, causing her to shriek and pull off my cock.
What?
I know what he means, but that's the way you describe that.
It makes it sound like she's like scared.
Oh.
To me,
No,
I'm
I
like,
was focusing more on the fact that she ripped his dick off. But anyway.
I was picturing as like shrieking and pulling away, like shrieking and pulling away. To me, doesn't say, "Oh yes, baby." That says, "Eh, get that thing off me."
The end of the sentence is huddling on the bed and cupping her pussy as her body spasmed for a few seconds.
That's
What?
not how that works, buddy.
So she orgasmed so hard she launched off of his dick like face first into the bed and like had to grab her vag for leverage.
And she's just sitting
don't
there
know.
shaking for a bit. That's
don't
not
know.
how any of this works, buddy.
I don't know. Maybe we just haven't had proper orgasms before. Maybe we're the ones that aren't in the know. Who knows? I haven't been launched into the ceiling before, but maybe I'm missing out. Anyway, as soon as she recovered, she launched herself at my cock, taking me into her mouth and twisting her head about as she sucked me hungrily.
Oh, that's just not a pleasant image.
Okay.
I'm picturing like, rather than going, in and out, it's going like left and right, like it's just sort of rotating. This is what I call the corkscrew mode. Ah.
It only took her... She was good with her mouth, I'd give her that. It only took her a minute or two before she got me to explode into her mouth. That's too many uses of the word mouth in quick succession. She gulped it all down like a pro. How much even did you... Okay, you know what? I don't want to know. But we have to gulp it down like it's a fucking beer.
Skull.
Ew. And when I was done and she'd licked me clean, ew, she leaned her head back and opened her mouth to show me that she'd swallowed everything, as if that was supposed to impress me.
Ew.
Honey, squirrel lady, please have some dignity. He does not deserve this.
What? Oh.
I...
Poor squirrel woman. She needs more dignity than
poor
she's getting.
Squirrel woman. Ugh. Poor squirrel lady. I mean, we are calling her squirrel lady, so I don't know if we're respecting her any much more than
We don't know
does.
her name
He
yet.
does.
We've had a description of how she gives head, and we don't know her name. Just pointing that out.
Well, he said he couldn't remember her name.
Did he?
So,
Oh, I missed
yeah,
that.
he said at the top, he said, I've already forgotten her name again.
Wait,
so.
you're fucking her and you don't even know her name?
That's how we know he's cool.
Like...
Because that's what I said reminded me of the guy from The Mister, because he was like, I think her name was like something or rather, Jojo.
Like...
Anyway.
This must, like... I know that The Mister isn't even written by a man, but Erica Mitchell sure does write like one. Like, it's that thing of, at least I,
so
as
cool
a woman,
because I disrespect...
I don't find it romantic to be like, I don't know her name. I don't think she's worthwhile, but she's still worth fucking once. Oh my god.
I turned and flopped down on my back beside her, already reaching for my cigarettes on the end table. And then her hands slithered onto my chest, and she sidled up next to me. The word slithered always makes me think like a zigzaggy sort of motion.
Yeah.
That was amazing, she cooed. I hate the term cooed. I don't like it.
It doesn't read well, it doesn't write well, it doesn't really make sense.
Laying her head down on my shoulder. I tried to ignore her, thinking maybe she'd go away.
Just
Just
disappear.
had sex with her and she's lying next to you. She's not gonna fucking vanish when you close your eyes. Do you lack object permanence, you fucking psycho?
Oh my god.
Why did women like her always think I wanted more from them after this? Did you establish that this was all you wanted beforehand? Because then I can think of a couple reasons why.
Oh, why do women assume I'm a decent fucking human being? Don't they know?
As I lit up... What? Oh, he got his cigarettes, right. I was like, you lit up like a Christmas tree? As I lit up, I began to debate whether between the desire to lie there and relax and the desire to pull away from her unwanted touch. At the moment, they seemed to be mutually exclusive goals.
Oh,
I endured her
bad
affection for a
Sorry.
minute. I endured her affection for a minute, then got up, slipping out of her grasp and stepping away from the bed. It's late, I said without turning to look at her, calmly taking another drag. You should probably go home. So soon? She said, her voice dripping with suggestion. I was looking forward to spending the night. I don't know why I'm doing a girly voice when I am a girl, but anyway. That's okay. I'm tired. And then she saw fit to drape herself over my back. Me too, after that. She hummed in my ear. Why don't we curl up together? Most women got the hint quicker than this. Usually by this point, a woman would be calling me an unpleasant name, grabbing her clothes and purse to storm out the door. For some reason, this one had gotten the impression I still wanted her company. I wasn't sure what I'd done to give her that idea. Maybe slept with her? I don't know. But I knew how to get the message to her. Oh god, here we go. I turned around.
Doesn't he work with this woman?
Yes.
Didn't they say up top that they were
she's part of human resources.
Yeah, you work with this human, you went on a date, you took her home. Are you surprised she thinks that maybe you have a connection? Or at least that you vaguely like
Apparently.
her? Oh my god.
Shock horror, this guy's a moron. Go figure. I turned around and gave her just the barest glimpse of my real face. I let her see my wolf's eyes. Her throat began making a threatening growl. Oh, my throat, sorry. I was like, why is she threatening him? No, my throat began to make a threatening growl, and I opened my mouth, showing her my long, pointed teeth. Okay, so he went, like, partial wolf on her?
I guess.
And she's just...
How much of this is meant to be metaphorical, and how much of this is literal? Did you turn around?
No, he literally says, long, pointed teeth.
Yeah.
So...
How is she not about to go to the police? Or... I don't know.
To be fair, though, it's kind of a who's gonna believe you situation.
True. I feel like it's just a bad move, right? You're trying to be a werewolf, I'm assuming secretly, so you're just gonna randomly turn this woman that you slept with and can't remember her name, be like, here's my wolf face. Please leave my apartment.
That's how I get people to leave. Grr, here's my wolf face. Grr. She almost forgot to grab her clothes in her hurry to leave after that. Fair enough, honestly. I finished my cigarette and stepped out to wander the halls of my house. I didn't bother getting dressed. I've always felt more comfortable in my skin than in my clothes. It's just a natural inclination that comes from being what I am. I only had to look at the house around me to know I'd done well since my banishment from the pack. Looking down over the railing beside me, I could see clean marble floors on the ground level below. On the third floor above me was my personal theater room, complete with its own private bar and elevator going through all 3 levels of the house. And stepping out onto the...
An elevator! He has an elevator! Yeah. How fucking rich is he? You can't walk
rich
up
enough
some
to have an elevator.
stairs?
He's too rich for stairs. These legs were not made for walking. And stepping out onto the back patio, the long expanse of grass, trees, and the beautiful pool that made up my yard stretched out before me. Some long-ass sentences. Seems to be a trend. My six-figure job on Wall Street had brought me good money, that was for sure.
No shit. That sentence doesn't say anything. It says the same thing twice.
Also, a 6-figure job doesn't necessarily mean that much money. Like,
no.
You know, being paid $100,000 a year is not that much. Not enough to have a personal theater and bar and elevator and etc. etc. Like,
yeah. Granted, 6
but
figures.
it's still a 6-figure.
That's anywhere from $100K to almost $1 million.
Exactly. So that's nice and vague.
He's rich enough to have an elevator in his house. I don't think even Kim Kardashian has an elevator in her house.
He probably does.
She probably, I don't know.
I don't know. Kim, if you're watching this, let us know.
Does she have an elevator?
Do you have an elevator, Kim? We need the truth, please. But it was times like this that I missed the camaraderie of the pack. When I had to deal with women who always wanted to give more than they had to offer, it made me long for the she-wolves I used to know. Maybe it was the nostalgia, but I felt the need to go for a run. It was specifically for this purpose that I'd bought a house with a yard as expansive as this. I hurried down the paved steps to the grass and began to run. beginning to shed my two-legged body. I stretched out my hands that became paws and dug my nails that became claws into the grass to propel me forward. I let my fur grow out from my skin and my tail emerge from my spine. As my nose and ears reshaped, the full sounds and smells of the night opened up to me. I sprinted through the trees faster than any human feet could carry me, feeling the wind rushing through my fur. All the money in the world couldn't buy this. Even with everything I had now, there were still times I wished I could go back home to my pack where we might as... He's literally just saying the same shit again.
Yep.
We might have been dirt poor back then, but I didn't have many unhappy memories of those days. I always fondly remembered the night's howls when all of us would stand around a bonfire, naked and covered in dirt, howling to the sky, while the alpha marched about, shouting inspirational words to get our blood pumping. See, I keep stopping where there should be the ends of sentences instead of where the actual sentence ends.
This is just, I'm also just so bored by this person as a character. I'm a lone wolf. I was in a pack. I am now running. I am a, what the fuck?
And then we were all riled up. We would take our four-legged forms and run off into the woods, hunting for whatever we could get our teeth into. That's not where I thought that was going with all riled up. And the women there, now those were real animals, especially Lucille. Ah, Lucille. I'd never met a she-wolf like her. Jesus Christ, okay. Lucille, the love interest, or is it someone else?
I have no idea. I feel like it's probably, this sounds like a memory, right?
Yeah, I just assumed that maybe they would
We haven't
go back
had the
to that.
meet cute yet. We generally have to have the meet cute.
True. I still remembered my first time with her. It was during one of those very hunts. Both of us had come across the same rabbit and were sharing its fresh-killed meat when one of us jumped the other. I can never remember which of us it was. I bet it was you. But we were jazzed up enough on the hunt and kill that it didn't matter. We started as a rolling, tumbling flurry of biting teeth, scrabbling claws, and I think there was quite literally some fur flying. But then, while still rolling in the dirt, we shifted to our two-legged forms. Suddenly, we were all over each other's naked, hairless flesh. You have not made the human body sound less sexy than calling it naked, hairless flesh. Also, it's not hairless. We're covered all from in hair. We're just not furry.
Not furry.
But anyway, our hungry kisses still filled with the taste of fresh-killed rabbit.
Ew!
Yummy! If there had been any doubt she was fully alive at that moment, it was gone when I entered her. She went completely wild, shrieking like a banshee and clawing at me. That's not usually a good sign, but anyway. Her pussy walls gripped me like she was trying to pull my skin off.
Ew! Now,
What are people pulling your body parts off, man?
Yeah, that was supposed to say, there's your second dick pulling.
And more than I thought I would have tonight, but here we are. And her legs pushed at my backside, trying to force my whole body inside her. Amongst our kind, the point where you know the sex is excellent is when you can't stay fully in... Sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit.
I thought...
You know the sex is excellent when you can't stay fully in one form or another. Even though we were both two-legged while we fucked, the fingernails she was clawing at me had been hardening into claws, and I remember seeing long teeth and yellow eyes on her during the act. And eventually the claw marks on her arms led me to realize I was doing the same. Ugh.
Cool.
Just
you have
top
2
10
sex
writing.
scenes in the first chapter. I'd say I feel bad for you, but I don't. This is funny.
It's alright. I don't feel bad for me either. We must have changed positions about 10 or 12 times that first night, all without ever pulling out. That's pretty acrobatic. Just turn like a corkscrew, just...
I'm picturing more like the, you know, when your homemade lube turns into super glue. No, it's stuck.
I don't know that sensation, actually. Not familiar. We kept rolling over so that the other would be on top, and it just kept right on going, grunting and howling. So you're not changing positions so much as you're just, like, rolling over. I mean, I guess that's positions, but they make it sound like it's more like Kama Sutra than...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Just
like,
flopping over.
1 on top, 2 on top, from behind, from on front. Like,
Yeah,
Upside
I thought he was
down,
like
left or right?
twisting her around. But no, it was just the boring kind.
Left foot
Uh,
in, right foot out, shake it all about.
grunting and howling and clawing. Oh my. When when I finally busted my nut.
Uh,
When I finally busted my nut inside of her was
how?
when we both
So
howled our loudest.
I don't think I would have ever expected the actual "bust my nut" as a term to make its
Bust
way
my
into
nut.
supposed romance.
So funny.
It's just such a
Oh,
non-sexy phrase.
that
It's
is
a
not a sexy
meme.
thing to
It's
say.
a
That's
joke.
like that's on par with like dick aneurysm.
Dick
Like
aneurysm is better because it's funnier.
true. So we both howled our loudest, and when I collapsed on top of her, she confessed that she had never gotten off that many times at once before. Of
Wait,
course.
how many times at once? Like, not even just. I had 7 seconds.
I'm
7
pretty
orgasms
sure-
all at once.
I'm pretty sure with so many orgasms. Sandra Hill, is this you?
It's not like a level you have to reach. It just kind of either it happens or it doesn't.
Oh. But of course the guy is like, oh man, I got her off so many times, more than anyone has ever gotten her off. Like, yeah, right.
She had a
Fucking-
level 8 orgasm.
That night had only been the first of many. I had plenty of fond memories with plenty more of the she-wolves in my pack, but that was then. And when I woke up the next morning, curled up under a tree and having shifted back into my two-legged body, it was time to get back to the life I had now. He's just under a tree somewhere? Does he have to walk back in the buck? Like,
I guess so. He does say this is. Wait,
good morning.
I'm not totally sure. Is he in the woods or is he in his backyard?
He's in his backyard. Apparently, he just has that big of a backyard that he can run around as a werewolf. I like to think it's just like a track. It's just like NASCAR kind of thing. Where was I? I put on my well-tailored suit. I rode the subway through the crowds of people. I walked through my clean glass doors and rode the elevator up 70 floors, surrounded by more crowds.
Boy, I just
I
want to bump
walked-
on something. He's rich enough that he owns an elevator in his 3-story house, but he takes the subway.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure only people with like more time than money drive anywhere in New York, which is,
I guess
no one drives anywhere in New York. There's too much traffic.
you take cabs. Surely, like, a dude that rich would at least take a cab.
True. I don't know. Take it up
Either
with
way,
this dude.
I plan
I walked past the gathering of my sales team, huddled in front of their computer screens with their headsets on, yakking away to their clients. Yakking, what an
Ugh.
interesting word. I was greeted by dozens of my co-workers and subordinates. Dozens? That's a lot. Hello, Mr. Lupus. Good morning, Mr. Lupus. Of course, his last name is Lupus.
to. Oh
I'm sorry,
my God.
Lupin was taken, so I went with Lupus.
So different.
I came to the office that proudly displayed the name Marco Lupus. Okie dokie. Engraved in a bronze plaque, and walked inside. My assistant had already put my morning coffee on my desk, which I could already tell. Stop using the same words so many times. You used already in this sentence already.
I think they don't seem like they're going back and doing a lot of rereading.
Yes, this is why you read your writing out loud. Always.
What is editing?
Which I could already tell from the smell had cream with no sugar. Just the way. How did you tell that from smell? Don't give me that werewolf bullshit. I sat down in my big leather chair, allowing myself a moment to luxuriate in it before the day ahead of me. I had a sales meeting to prepare for at 10, and then at least a dozen potential clients to call before lunchtime. But for right now, I could just relax in the splendor I'd set up around me. My office had everything lesser traders wanted for theirs. The cushy chair, the clean polished desk, the leather sofa, the big high-def TV, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the city, dozens of framed certificates celebrating my achievements over the years decorated my wall. The one bit of nostalgia present in the office was a painting hanging on the wall depicting a howling wolf pack. Yes, I was a lone wolf now, but I was a rich lone wolf. And I didn't have to take orders from a pompous, self-important alpha anymore. Here, I was the alpha.
Oh.
Fuck me.
My
No, we're not
God.
done with the chapter. I thought that was the end of the chapter. I heard the sound of footsteps approaching, which I knew by scent belonged to Theo long before he came swaggering through my door. Hey, Marco, my man, what's going on? I don't know why I made him sound like Michelangelo. But anyway. He said with all this. Oh, sorry, he spoke with sophistication. Hey, Marco, my man, what's going on? With all the sophistication of a first-year college football player on weed. Oh, wait, no, I didn't read the rest of the sentence.
You're right the first time.
My bad. Back to the first take. How'd you like Trina? Ah, yes, Trina. That was her name. She was fine. Any chance you're actually gonna talk to this one again? I highly doubt it. You're such a player, man. He started throwing papers down on my desk, just like one by one. Yeah. Anywho, here's the sales figures for stock in Cisco, Apple, Microsoft. I don't know why he got Southern
He's
all of a
gotten
sudden.
Southern, yes.
He's gotten Southern. Walmart, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Some people actually consider Theo to be funny. I don't. Neither do I. So,
and yet he
Marco and I have that in common. I looked over the reports. The numbers looked good for the most part. Our sales were a little lax in some areas that I'd have to bring up at the meeting. Hold on, I said. It looks like a few pages are missing here. Theo rolled his eyes and scratched his curly mop. You mean his hair?
I guess so.
My new secretary must have left him. She's still working out the kinks. Yeah, I think you told me you had a new secretary. Zoe, right? Oh, yeah, this is definitely the love interest. She's the new secretary. Yeah, that's her name. African-American. Bit of an oddball and kind of spacey, too. Just make sure you get the rest of the pages from her by the meeting, I said. No problem, man, he said as he sauntered out the door. What an odd thing to end on. Yeah. I feel like ending on here, I was the alpha, would have been a much more impactful, like, end of the first chapter line.
Maybe that's what they wrote and then realized they couldn't fit in that scene at the start of the next chapter.
Maybe. Oh.
All right.
Marco, my man.
I'm going to point out one thing that I'm seeing
Only one?
Early. Oh, but okay. There's several hundred things, but one in particular. Okay, so she is an African-American woman. Sure, represent in theory. But his whole thing, right, from earlier is he needs to find a woman with animalistic things. Is it weird that I'm seeing it as weird? Like, just kind of maybe not okay that it's the African-American woman who is quote-unquote animalistic. That's an issue, right? I'm not black in the slightest. I'm a pasty white fucker, but
he didn't specify that he was white. We just assumed that because he's a douchebag.
I certainly assumed that he was white.
Well, yes, he does. He does talk a lot like a rich white man, so it's a fairly safe bet. Maybe. But his name is also Marco, so could be Latin. Who fucking knows? I don't know. But yes, no, that is a bit potentially problematic. But I suppose we'll see? Question mark.
It's I feel like darker skinned people don't need another person drawing a link between the dark skin and animalisticness. That's just
yes.
I just want to say that is up top.
Yeah, no, it's noted. It's written on the board.
All right. Chapter 2.
Ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready. And there's no space between chapter and 2.
It's just chapter 2.
Chapter 2. Starting at a new job is never easy for a girl like me. Being African American and working in this part of town, it's very much like they're expecting you to mess up. Or mess something up. So I felt more than embarrassed. That's not correct English. All right.
Nope.
So I felt more than embarrassed when I discovered the pages of the sales figures I'd forgotten to give Mr. Clark before he went moonwalking off to the head trader's office.
Not gonna lie, I kind of love Theo.
I can't...
Because he's the only character in this who has made me laugh thus
He's
far.
either the best part or the worst part. And I'm not sure which. I'd barely been here 3 days, and I was already making a spectacular fool of myself. Of all the jobs I had taken since fleeing my pack... What? Alright.
Oh, she's a werewolf too.
Apparently. This was quickly shaping up to be my shortest tenure, and after a week-long position waiting tables at the Lobster Shack, that was saying something. My first day, I'd gotten lost 5 times trying to find Mr. Clark's office. Granted, the building was huge and there were people everywhere, but I still felt like a colossal loser when I finally found it. And...
A colossal loser!
What is this, 1995?
Oh, no. Yeah, everyone, like, and fucking Michelangelo over there is talking like this. Like, I mean, to be fair, I did give him that voice.
You gave him that voice.
But it did specify that that's kind of what he sounds like. And he is moonwalking around the room, so of course he sounds like that.
True, he's moonwalking. There's nothing can be done. He's living in the 90s. Oh, they were there.
Tubular.
When Mr. Clark asked for me to for the stock info report on one company that I could no longer remember the name of, I ended up giving him the wrong report. Then I left another report I was supposed to give him in the copy room, which I didn't realize until I'd already made it back to Mr. Clark, allowing myself time to properly humiliate myself in front of him. And then had to traipse back to the copy room to look for it, only to find that it was gone, and spent the next 20 minutes looking for it before he finally showed up to tell me someone else had already picked up my unbearable slack and brought it to him for me. And now, true to form, I'd gone and fucked up again. So when he came back in, giving me a pointed and disapproving Zoe, all I could do was blush and bashfully hand him the pages. I'm sorry, sir, I said, my eyes on the floor. You'll figure out the rhythm sooner or later, he said.
Is that Michelangelo?
I can't do it. I don't know what...
You just talk louder. That's your resolution.
Just make him southern like you did. Just make sure it's sooner if you want to keep your job. And with that, he went gliding back to the door that had the name Theodore Clark proudly displayed in bronze on it. This writer has a thing for plaques.
Gliding, you know those like little hoverboard things you stand on and like you lean forward and you go zzz. I envision that's what he's on.
Once the door shut behind him, I slumped down in my chair and buried my face in my hands. I've been trying so hard to stay under the radar, to not be noticed by anyone save the few I had to report to directly. And yet, lately it seems my efforts were only drawing more attention to me, and not in a good way. It may not have been entirely my fault, though. I'd been on edge in this place since the day I got here, and until this morning, I was never quite sure why. It was some faint smell coming from somewhere on this floor that I hadn't been able to place until just a little while ago, when the source of it strode right past the door where I worked. By now, I was sure of it. There was another wolf in this building, on this very floor. So she's definitely a werewolf. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
at least it balances out the power dynamic.
It does a bit.
It's not just like, oh, he's so dangerous. Oh, I hope he doesn't bite me. Tee-hee.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with this. This is completely fine. Double wolves.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm just thinking how little we said, I'm totally okay with this, reading the previous book. This one we're like, yeah,
we were
fine.
not okay
we're having
with
a good
any
time,
of it.
whatever. No. Anyway, carry on.
From the moment I realized that, I had been in quite a state of panic. Or a state of quiet panic. Had they found me? Was someone here waiting to pounce on me and drag me kicking and screaming back to Lawson? I thought I'd been so careful, leaving no trace, traveling by car, by bus, by plane to keep them from tracking my scent. How had they caught up with me? I told myself to relax. There was no reason to assume that whomever I was smelling was from my own pack. It could very easily just be a stray. But once the thought had entered my head, I couldn't get rid of it. The images of being forcefully taken back home and facing Lawson's leering, hateful face wouldn't leave me, no matter how I tried to shake them. I was plagued all at once by the memories I tried for so long to get rid of. Memories of him shoving my face into the dirt.
Remember how we talked about less rape in this one? Well,
Here it is. At least we've made it to chapter 2
content
this time.
warning, folks, because I just read ahead slightly.
Yep.
Always chapter 2. Why is it always chapter 2?
I mean, chapter 1 had it a
Chapter
bit
2
too.
is the rape chapter. Oh, God. Carry on.
Memories of him shoving my face into the dirt while he mounted me from behind, using me for his pleasure, calling me his bitch. And when he declared that he wanted me to be his wife and bear his pups, it was like the final nail had been hammered into my coffin. No one said no to their alpha. I had to get out. When Mr. Clark emerged again, as always walking like he was waiting for disco to come back into style.
I love this man.
Oh my, that's just...
I'm just walking, I'm envisioning him like bopping and jiving as he walks along.
Just
Like,
the
ooh, yeah,
whiplash
hey little mama.
of rape,
Oh.
rape, disco.
I love him. He's my new favorite.
I handed him the quarterly statement he would need for the sales meeting and watched him walk out, and then started contemplating my options. I was sorely tempted to quit my job now and run, but I didn't want to jump to any conclusions. Doing something extreme could put more attention on me than I wanted, which ended up happening anyway 10 minutes later when Mr. Clark buzzed me, informing me that I'd forgotten to print the extra copies of the quarterly report. Another ugly mark on my so far dismal record with this firm. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll bring them right away," I said. I sighed, heading for printer.
Heading for printer. Singular.
Could I have been any more of a mess if I tried? And I guess... Are you seeing this double page break?
Yep.
Yep.
There's both a star and a line.
They really want to make sure we know that it's broken. The morning meeting...
Oh, and we're back to douchebag.
Are we?
Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's swapped back. It's swapped back to the dude.
Cool. I can't keep up.
Because it's saying Theo now instead of Mr. Clark.
That's alright, I can swap out of my demure woman voice. The morning meeting proceeded fairly normally, save for a few upsets. Theo had the pages we needed, but it turned out his new secretary had forgotten to print extra copies of the quarterly statement to pass around. I commented that she was off to a great start. "She's still new," he shrugged. "Cut her some slack." So he buzzed the instructions to her. She apologized, and we proceeded to discuss other topics until there was a knock on the door. Someone got up to open it, and in she strode. Whatever business I may have been concerned with discussing was forgotten immediately. She couldn't have been more than 26, with a dark, mocha-colored complexion and a face framed by a head of thick, frizzled hair. Why do people with dark skin always just get described with food? Why?
Like chocolate skin and mocha skin. No one ever says like she had skin like vanilla. Like a...
She had skin like
I
a
don't know, maybe
fresh
they do.
marshmallow.
Like buttery whipped cream. That one's from Tall Girl.
Oh no.
She wore no makeup, of course she does.
Yeah. She wore no makeup, and her business attire was just barely neat enough to avoid being called frumpy. Her walk and demeanor were the epitome of awkward. Then I noticed her scent. It was a scent I hadn't
I love how this
smelled.
guy's just negging her non-stop, like...
Oh
God.
yeah, have I not made it clear yet that I love this man and definitely want to see these two get together?
Gosh, rooting for them.
It's my favorite pairing, the asshole and the demure. Fuck that.
Ugh. Ugh. Carry on.
It was a scent I hadn't smelled on a woman in years, and as soon as I caught it on her, my eyes were nowhere else. And at the same moment, she caught my scent as well, and her attention was squarely on me. "Thank you, Zoe," Theo said as he got up and took the printed reports from her and began to pass them around. I bullshitted my way through the rest of the meeting. I hardly listened to anything that was said, and made up answers when I was asked direct questions. I was unable to tear my attention away from Zoe. Officially, she was supposed to return to Theo's office in case he got a call, but instead she hung back against the door and waited. No one seemed to notice the wallflower hanging around except me, and no one seemed to care that she was remaining consistent in not doing her job very well. That's just an awkward sentence. Just tell her that she sucks.
Bitch, you suck.
She tried to hide it by looking down at the floor, but each time my gaze turned back to her, and her eyes came up again to meet mine. When the meeting finally ended, she seemed to suddenly remember that she was supposed to be somewhere else, and made haste out of the door as everyone was getting up from their seats. I hung back as we exited the meeting room, my eyes fixed on the open door to Theo's office where Zoe was working. As Theo walked by me, I grabbed his arm to stop him. Hey, what can you tell me about that girl? What, you interested in her? You'd be the first as far as I know. Just tell me. Well, there's not much I can tell you yet. She doesn't really mix, if you know what I mean. Keeps to herself, eats alone, and if you ask me, I'd guess she hasn't been laid since Facebook was invented. Yikes. Wow.
Wow. All right.
Fuck, where's Facebook? There it is.
She's very uptight.
She is very uptight. Personally, I don't think she's gonna last. I think he went back to his work then. I wasn't watching him, and I didn't care. I somehow regained enough focus to get back to my own work, too. I made phone calls, I traded stocks, I did the job that made me rich. And then it got to be 1 o'clock, when most of my co-workers were breaking for lunch, and the crowd and the crowd of brokers was thinning out. I, meanwhile, went searching to feed a different kind of hunger. Zoe had already left Theo's office. I followed her scent to one of the smaller break rooms, one usually reserved for morning coffee breaks. It wasn't one of the better ones either. The coffee machine was always breaking down, and there was only a single small table with room for 3 people at best. I guess Zoe had chosen it on purpose for that very reason. She sat alone, quietly indulging in a sandwich, which she seemed to forget about when she noticed me. She stared back at me over her shoulder. For a long while, neither of us spoke. I could see the tension in her shoulders from where I stood. Wait, you can see her muscles tensing? Is that the idea? Oh, I don't know.
mean, I suppose if someone tenses enough, like, then you can kind of see it.
I like how he's just blatantly standing behind her, as opposed to, like, she would turn around like a normal-ass human.
No, he's got to, like, leer behind her like a horror movie villain. Because that's sexy. Twilight did it. Remember the scene in the forest where he's like, say what I am, or whatever the fuck he says. I don't fucking remember.
How old are you?
How old are you? 17. How long have you been 17?
About 11
I don't know,
months.
bitch. My birthday next month.
You seem anxious, I said. What are you afraid of? She said nothing. I began slowly approaching her. Instantly, she
only
began...
my lust.
If only the lust could keep me from you. What? Instantly, she began gathering up her lunch and hurrying out of her chair. I'm sorry, Mr. Lupus, she said. I'll find somewhere else to eat. But as she tried to rush by me, I grabbed hold of her arm. She kept her eyes down, not daring to meet mine. I paused, taking a moment to breathe in her scent, savoring it. After so many years, to smell this kind of scent on a woman again. Look at me, I softly commanded. Slowly, she raised her eyes to me. With a soft growl in my throat, I let her see my wolf's eyes, and reflexively, she revealed hers. As soon as I saw her eyes shift from brown and white to yellow and black, I released her arm, and she bolted from the room. Cool.
Wow. Remember how I was talking about that power dynamic? Well, I was wrong.
Take a wet shower.
Because I am a fool, it turns out, and should have known better. This is a man's power fantasy, apparently.
I'm so over the woman who knows nothing. I'm lost. I'm helpless.
Oh, yeah,
I suck at my job. I'm in need. I'm on the run.
It's like the Born Sexy Yesterday trope.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I don't know anything. I'm just super hot. Please teach me everything, big strong man. Like, ugh.
Yikes.
It's such a male specific fantasy, because what woman looks at that and goes, yes, that's what I want. I want to be absolutely fucking clueless and have a man whisk me off my feet.
Like,
and just
yeah,
control my entire life.
I completely understand the idea that safety and security in a man is attractive, but I feel like some of these writers take it to the absolute extreme where they give the woman no power and she needs everything from this one person. And it just becomes, like, at best, codependent. And it's just not okay.
Yeah, unhealthy regardless. Like, have your own individuality, girls. Like...
Yes.
You do not need a man to define you. You do not need him to protect you and take care of you. Those things are nice, but you don't need it.
No, you don't. You don't need him to have all the money. You don't need him to have all the power. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I certainly wouldn't object to dating someone who was obscenely rich, but
I mean, no. I'm only human.
Yeah.
We live in a capitalist society, all right?
Money, unfortunately,
girl's gotta do what a
makes the
girl's
world
gotta
go
do.
round. Yeah, it's... Oy. But at the same time, it's the... Like, again, it's that thing of the mister where he's so rich he doesn't even know how rich he is. And she's a runaway with, like, you know, $1 in her wallet.
Mm.
You know what is sexy? Nuance. Nuance is sexy.
Yearning and subtlety. Build up, slow burn. All of that is sexy. Just being like, I am attracted to you because you are wolf and I am wolf is not.
No.
Okay.
Right,
I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a fascination with the idea of, like, an uncontrollable attraction. Like, it's the same in Twilight, not to get back to Twilight again, but the thing of, like, he goes after her because he likes the way she smells, or at least initially. But, like, I can't help loving you. Like, I would die without you. Like, you know, he can't help being attracted to her because he loves her blood so much. Things like that, where it's just like, and it's the same in, have you ever heard the author Sarah J. Maas?
Nope.
She writes a lot of, like, YA fantasy, and her books aren't terrible. They're fine for what they are. But, she has this big thing that she revolves around with, like, mates. And, like, it's basically soulmates, and it kind of just removes the whole, like, impact of the relationship when you find out that they were just meant to be together anyway, so regardless of what happens, they'll just be together. I feel like it devalues a relationship when you add that kind of dynamic into it. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I feel like a relationship that is earned feels a lot better than one that is just, like... that just exists because they say so.
Yeah, like
because they don't have, or because they don't have a choice in the matter, you know?
Yeah, I'm super pro the idea of, you know, passion is and there's strong emotions. But to me, my favorite kind of romances is when it's mutually accepted that you both want it, but there's something in the middle, like the obstacle in the middle, and that's what's interesting. Most of these romances where it's like rich guy, empowered woman, unempowered woman, really, where there's actually no obstacle. They could just date if he wasn't an asshole. That's the whole point. There is literally nothing stopping them getting together in 50 Shades other than he's an asshole.
Yeah, my least favorite, quote-unquote, forbidden romance is when literally the only obstacle is that he has far too much man pain and he just couldn't possibly. Like, oh my god, grow up. Jesus Christ. They're always such a man-child. Like, oh, I can't possibly deal with my own problems. Like, yeah, you should stay away from me. I'm far too damaged. Like, oh, shut up. Oh my god.
Yeah,
You're insufferable as you are.
yeah, for lack of a better term, I essentially like the Romeo Juliet style of romance as well, where you can have those moments, but they have to be stolen. They have to be, there's always that tension there as well. And then the point at hopefully at the end, if you're not Romeo and Juliet, is that the happy ending for you is getting past the obstacles together as a team, and it becomes a much more even ground.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, should I start on chapter 3?
Let's
Considering
do
we've only
this.
been going for about an hour.
Yeah, we're doing well.
All right. Hopefully we can fit in maybe another 2. Ooh, yay.
Well, apparently
My
this
heart
book is
raced.
I was going to say, we're apparently already, we're about a quarter of the way through the book already.
Yeah, because this is only 9 chapters.
Yeah, it's a tiny little
So-
novella.
Which, honestly, for romance is perfect. Like, romance doesn't need to be that long. If that's all that the book is about is romance, just make it short. Doesn't need to be a massive fucking book. Anyway. My heart raced, and I fought to catch my breath as I returned to my desk. Okay, he wasn't from my pack, that much was for sure. And he was the top trader at this firm, which meant he'd been here for years, whereas I was the newbie. Hold on. Sorry, it's that bullshit allergy. It's just playing up. Obviously, he didn't come here looking for me. But what if Lawson knew him? It was possible. What if he was telling Lawson where I was right now? What if I was becoming a paranoid wreck? I think you're already there, sweetheart. I had damn near passed out from panic when I walked into that meeting room and caught his scent, and realized he was right there, looking at me. If I'd been thinking clearly, I knew I should have gotten out of there as soon as I handed Mr. Clark those copies. Technically, I was supposed to do that anyway, and yet I'd been unable to move. I couldn't stop looking at him, seeing him watching me. When I realized he wasn't from my pack, I'd started to relax a little, and then he tracked me down in that break room, and he grabbed me like that. When he showed me his real eyes and I let my mask slip and showed him mine, I felt certain I'd been caught. But now I'd had time to rationalize things. I was starting to calm down. It was probably just chance that he was here, not part of a search for me. Contrary to what was always in my nightmares, Lawson's reach couldn't extend this far. The day proceeded like any other after that, for a few hours at least. I took Mr. Clark's calls, I typed reports and printed the documents he needed. And then Mr. Clark came to my desk and said, "Hey, Zoe, Marco just called me. He says he wants to see you in his office." I fought to swallow the lump in my throat. I should have expected this. All right. I slowly got up on shaky legs and headed for the door. "My advice, hold on to your panties with that guy," he said to my back. "Just saying."
Ew,
Oh,
sexual harassment! Sexual harassment!
yeah, I liked you until now, Mr. Clark. You're now back on the shit list. I didn't exactly know the full layout of the floor yet, but finding the head trader's office wasn't difficult. I just had to track his scent. Walking through the door, that was the difficult part. But I took a breath, bit my lip, and knocked. "Come in, please." I turned the knob and in I strode. That was a shit sentence. Mr. Lupus was seated on his leather sofa in the middle of the long, luxurious office, clearly waiting for me. I shut the door behind me and stood before him with as much composure as I could muster. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Lupus?" He cocked his head. "You don't have to be so formal with me, Zoe. Come on, sit down." I hesitated and took a seat as far from him as the sofa would allow. So it's a funny mental image to me, this long sofa and she's just sitting all the way at the other end of it. Why are you being so timid?" he asked. "I never expected to find another one of us in this whole city, let alone my own office. We're two of a kind here. Shouldn't we act like it?" I paused, not sure what to say, before I finally let my professional etiquette slip and said, "What do you want with me?" He looked a little caught off guard by that question. "Letting me buy you a drink tonight would be a start," he said. "You're the first of our kind I've met in years. I'd like to know more about you." I fell silent. I wasn't sure what I'd been expecting, but somehow I hadn't expected him to say something like that. In all honesty... What? I wasn't sure what I'd been expecting, but somehow I hadn't expected him to say something like that. In all honesty, sounded completely reasonable. What?
What?
What does that sentence mean? Whatever. Maybe Lawson had jaded me more than I thought. All right, I can do that. Wonderful. Then I'll meet you after work.
This writing
Am I
is
just going to get
weird.
all of the sex scenes? Yes, this writing is very weird. Zoe spent several minutes absently stirring her martini without looking up. Even now that we'd left the office and gotten to the bar, she seemed like he seems to get chapters all to himself, and she only gets half chapters.
Because we know whose voice we're really in.
Even now that we'd left the office and gotten to the bar, she still seemed like she didn't know what to do. So, I said, leaning forward on the table, what's a girl like you doing in a place like this anyway? Don't take this the wrong way, but you don't seem like much of a secretary. She shyly lifted her eyes to me. You mean, why am I not with my pack? Sure, that's definitely a good question. She paused, seeming like she wasn't sure if she wanted to answer. I decided to give my answer first. I was banished from mine. Banished? What for? To put it simply, I wanted more. I wanted a real education, a career. I wanted money. I wanted what I have now, but my alpha insisted that we don't belong in that kind of world, living and working with humans. He wanted us to stay hidden out in the boonies, living in wood hovels, driving old Volkswagens, scrounging for petty cash. So we're allowed to own cars, but they must be shitty old Volkswagens. I will accept nothing else.
We will only live in Canada.
They have to all of the vans have to be fitted out with that like horn.
We only play banjo.
When I got defiant with him about it, he told me that I could leave if I wanted, but if I did, I wouldn't be welcome back. So now you're a millionaire, she said, and all alone. That about says it. Do you ever regret that choice? I shrugged. Sometimes, when I think about the things I had to sacrifice to get where I am, the hunts, the howls, the running, I used to live for that. And before my eyes, she actually smiled, looking nostalgic. I know what you mean. All right then, now you've admitted to missing your pack too. So you ready to answer my question yet? Her smile disappeared as she looked me in the eyes. She looked down at her drink again, stirring it some more, and finally took a sip. Then she looked back up at me, and she paused. Oh my God, this woman. I'm running, she said at last. I had to escape my pack. My alpha wanted to own me. Really? He was going to force me to marry him. And to him, that meant I would be his slave/puppy factory. So I ran. I've gone from city to city, living where I can, taking job after job. I never stay in one place for long. I'm always worried he'll find me. You really think your alpha has that much power? She seemed almost surprised by the question. Probably not, she admitted, but it always seemed like he did. I always felt so helpless with him. My whole life he was there, controlling me. Ugh.
Yeah.
He's not there now, I said. It's just me. She gave me an intense, vulnerable look. I scooted my chair, sliding around the circumference of the table to move closer to her.
What?
I'm just envisioning like really awkward, like chuk 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 chuk.
The circumference of the table, it forces me to picture it in a very mathematical fashion, which kind of draws me out of like the tension of the scene, you know? It's like, well, wait, is circumference the outside? Yes, circumference is the outside. Okay.
I get why you're so guarded now, I said, but there's nothing you have to guard against here, and there's no reason you should hide, as much as you try to pretend otherwise. You're a beautiful woman, and I'm betting you're even more beautiful four-legged. Oh boy, alright. Ha! She half chuckled, looking thoughtful. I don't think I've been four-legged in over a year. You're kidding! I've always been so afraid of being found that I just never dared. I laid my hand on top of hers. Tonight, we're going to change that. What? Come on. I arose from my seat, pulling her with me. We hurried outside to my car, where I guided the confused-looking girl into the passenger seat before I hopped behind the wheel and sped off. Wow, all right.
Wow.
No stopping for consent there. We're on the one-way trip to Bow Wow Town, apparently. Oh, all right. I drove us through the heavy nighttime traffic, making my way out of the city towards the woods on the outskirts. I parked somewhere off the road, near the tree line. She got out much more slowly than I did, remaining consistent in her uncertainty. What are we doing here? Walking towards the trees, I began removing my coat and my tie and dropped them to the ground. We are going to go for a little run, the way we were born to. I started unbuttoning my shirt.
You have a
You're
car
serious?
right there. You can't put your clothes inside your car.
Nope. Don't need them. I'm a millionaire. Yeet.
They're clearly nice clothes. You put your tie on the dirty ground? This isn't just me
He
being a
has
germaphobe.
millions of
Just
ties.
put them in the back seat. Please.
It does seem like a waste. I mean, come on.
Oh, I forgot I had the wrong screen
you
up on the stream. Alright, there we go.
Why?
Sorry.
What was on the stream?
Well, it was just like the very, very basic image, and now we have reading the Seduced by the Wall Street Werewolf. The cover with all the abs and a wolf on it.
Oh, right. Right. You said you haven't done this in over a year. Aren't you itching to let your fur out after so long? I whip my fur back and forth. Anyway. The look on her face. Let's just delete that from the video.
No.
The look on her face was answer enough. Actually, as I discarded my shirt and dropped it on the ground, another look crossed her face. It's probably a white shirt too. Oh, come on,
Almost
man. Those
certainly.
things are such a pain, and you have to iron them after you clean them. Like, another look crossed her face, and it seemed to be directed at my pectorals. Are you checking me out? She
Are they
shrugged
undulating?
bashfully.
Are they galloping abs?
Guess I've lived among humans for too long. And with that, she began shedding her own clothes, starting with her coat, and then began unbuttoning her blouse. I smiled and resumed stripping myself. By the time I slid my shorts down and stood fully naked in front of her, she had slipped off her skirt and gotten down to her underwear. I took a moment to drink in the expanse of her coffee-colored skin.
Ew.
When she unfastened her bra and exposed her B cups, why do you know that from looking? You freak! Capped
It's just
by
really
dark
important
nipples.
that we know what size her breasts are. We just have to know that.
God. Capped by dark nipples into my view, I found myself experiencing an all-too-human reaction, much as I did seconds later when she bent to slide her panties down her legs, and I took in the smooth curve of her ass. Then she noticed how I was looking at her. Are you checking me out? Guess we've both lived among humans too long. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh my god.
She smiled with silent laughter, stepping up beside me, and then we took off running for the trees. We dashed back and forth, weaving along the dark night paths, past trees, over rocks, through bushes, and in mid-stride, I leapt off a rock outcropping with my human feet, but it was my front paws that touched the ground in the next moment, pulling me loping forward.
Oh, I have the perfect soundbite for this.
Tits to the wind.
Yes. Sorry, I just had to use that.
Very good. Even though the woods were dark, every sense I had could feel Zoe running beside me. From the sound of her paws pulling at the ground with each stride, ripping up the dirt, to the sound of her rapid, panting breath as she ran, to the smell of her fur and the warmth of her pounding blood. For so long I had been forced to do this alone, and now a she-wolf was running beside me again, after so long. My lupine heart was pounding like I hadn't felt in years. I was alive again. Suddenly, Zoe took off running in a specific direction. I turned to follow her, a second before I discovered what was driving her, the scent of a live raccoon. I picked up my pace to match hers, as together we closed on our newly discovered prey. The docile animal barely had time to see us coming before we were upon it. In a flash, I had my jaws on its throat, crunching its neck, while Zoe got her teeth into the flesh of its back, tearing at its meat. Ew.
Do we have to put a content warning
The
for
civilized-
animal death? I guess we probably do, huh?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. The civilized dinner dates I'd put up with for years with vapid women who knew nothing about me other than my position and money could never compare to feasting on a fresh kill with a spirited she-wolf. And now that we'd finally stopped running, I had the chance to look up and really see the beautiful four-legged creature sharing meat with me. She may have kept her human look plain, but her lupine form was a marvel of nature. The way the moonlight slicing through the trees glistened onto her dark fur, the way her yellow eyes shone in the night, everything about her was magnificent. Oh,
So this
okay.
author is fully a fairy, right? We're on board with this.
It's fully what, sorry?
The author is fully a fairy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. That was pretty obvious. I moved towards her, touching my nose to the fur of her neck, beginning to rub against her. I sniffed at her, savoring her scent, and then I realized she was doing the same with me. I could sense the rush still coursing through her. We grunted and whined affectionately as our muzzles rubbed together. She shifted back to her two-legged body first, which I did immediately after. We rose to our feet and stared at each other as I watched her pant from the excitement. I forgot how good that feels, she breathed. I suddenly grabbed her by the shoulders and pulled her to me, bringing her into a fierce, heated kiss. She offered no resistance, opening her mouth to my tongue. Our mouths still tasted. I'm like, why is it always after you eat? Our mouths still tasted of fresh killed meat, just like I'd remembered after the hunts with Lucille and the other she-wolves from my pack. Her hands gripped tight onto my back, and she pressed her nubile naked body into my own. I could smell her arousal. Even standing there lip-locked with her, I could smell the wetness forming between her legs.
Oh.
I felt her nipples hardening against my chest, and I slid a hand between our bodies and brought it up to cup her breast, making her moan into my mouth. I bent lower to kiss her smooth, mocha-colored neck, to which... Why are you constantly talking about her skin color? If she was white, you would not be talking about it this much. To which she responded by rolling her head to the side and moaning softly as I continued to massage her breast. I ducked my head lower still, pulling at the breast I was massaging. Stop talking about massaging her breast, Jesus. To bring the
Boob,
dark
boob,
nipple
boobily
out from my
boob.
mouth. Boob, 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 boob. She gasped sharply when I sucked her erect nipple into my mouth, clutching it to the back of my... Clutching onto the back of my head. I thought she was clutching it to the back of his head. I was like, how did she get the nipple back there? Did she just like impale him with it?
Here, lean down so I can put my tit in your head.
Bloop.
It's my new tit stand.
I began lowering us down as I continued suckling at her tit. I laid her down flat on her back on the ground. No blanket or clothes separated her from the dirt or grass or tree roots beneath her. Just like this, out in nature, in the dirt, was where all my best sex experiences had happened. Human women would never understand. They always wanted to do it inside, on my soft sheets. But Zoe was one of my own kind, and this was where we belonged. When I had her on her back, I kissed my way down her body until I came to the junction of her thighs. I breathed in her musky smell. This was another thing no human woman could compare with. None of them ever smelled as intoxicating as this. When I brought my mouth down to taste her nectar, her body came alive like never before. Her legs kicked back and forth. So I'm just imagining her whipping them through the air. Whoop, 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 whoop. Churning up dirt, and her torso undulated beneath me. There we go, got an undulate.
Hey.
Her fingers clawed at the ground, and she screamed with delight. I continued pleasuring her slit with my tongue
Ew.
until her hands took hold of my head and lifted me up, staring at me with smoldering eyes. I read that as she softly breasted. There's too many breasts. Softly breathed, "I want you now." I grinned and crawled up her body, the tip of my erection sliding along her inner leg.
If there is a single
Oh,
word
boy.
that I am most allergic to in erotica, it is slit. There is just nothing sexy about
Slit.
it. I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, not a fan.
again. I always bristle against like any kind of erotica that really brings anatomy into it. You want sensation and more like the mental thing with erotica. It always gets weird as soon as you start bringing up a lot of like just mechanical descriptions.
His right hand went to her left breast and he squeezed 3 times. Like, yeah, okay, cool. Sounds more like a medical exam than a sex scene. All right, well, back to her point of view now.
Yay.
My heart pounded as he crawled atop of me. I swear to God, it's going to be like every second chapter there's a sex scene, and it's going to be my turn every single time. My heart pounded as he crawled atop of me, not on top of me, atop of me. My pussy throbbed with anticipation, already feeling the heat from his cock coming nearer. I reached down to grab it, eager to guide it on, and found his hand already there. Together, we guided it towards its goal.
That's a lot of, like, space.
Did, like, confetti come out when you touched it? Yeah! Sorry.
I'm just trying to, like, one
When
hand
his-
on the cock, 2 hands on the cock. Like, how does that... That's just a lot of...
How big is his dick?
Yeah. Ah.
Probably massive, I assume, considering how big of an ego this guy has. And if it's being written by a man, then he no doubt has a
This
massive
does kind of
cock.
make me feel like it's written by a man, because it's mostly focusing on the, like, the very male point of view.
Yeah, it's really dipping into the male point of view.
Which isn't necessarily true, but with this one in particular,
Yes,
like, it's
obviously
a lot of,
E.L. James has proved that that's not true.
but even of it, like, I haven't seen any of the sex scenes in the Mister, but 50 Shades focused a lot on the female sensation, not a lot on him. He was just kind of there, you know? He was there also in the sex scene. He got an orgasm, that's about it.
But she, like, violently orgasmed when he, like, booped her on the nose, so... Anyway, alright. When his cock head pressed into my folds, I sucked in my breath. The least enthusiastic sex scene ever.
I like how it was just like, when did this happen? I did the thing and it was sexy.
It was
This-
real sexy. It's like Eeyore reading erotica.
I
I told him how long it had been since I'd been four-legged.
I'm picturing Hannah from Mass Effect as like, with passion, enter me now, I want you.
You mean
oh,
Elcor?
baby. Yes.
Elcor. Hannah are the ones with the big, stupid jellyfish.
The jellyfish. I can't give him straight. The these, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What I hadn't told him was how long it'd been since I had done this. And to ask how long it had been since I'd done this and enjoyed it was yet another question. The time I spent living as Lawson's bitch had all but completely jaded me against the idea of sex being a good thing.
Yikes.
Jesus Christ. Stop with the rape, please! As he pushed his way into me, I groaned in a mixture of pleasure and pain at the feel of my long unused pussy being stretched again.
What?
I could feel the ridge of his mushroom head moving inside me.
Mushrooms,
Nothing
a new one.
sexier than mushrooms.
I will admit that is a word for dick I ain't heard before. Mushroom.
Mushroom head. I bit my lip, squeezing my eyes shut as he slowly sank deeper. When I felt him bottom out, I finally opened my eyes and looked up at him. Even though I hadn't said it, I could see that he knew I hadn't done this in a long time.
How?
He was allowing me time to get used to his girth. A courtesy Lawson had never offered me. Wow, is she going to keep talking about her rapist the entire time? Because
Yes. Apparently.
when you're having sex with someone that you're actually into, you should not be thinking about your rapist. Just
would
pointing that
hope
out.
not. That's like a go get therapy, girl.
Yeah. I gasped out a few short breaths, staring into his eyes, and wordlessly gave him the slightest nod to his unspoken question. I was ready for more. He began pulling out slowly, letting me feel every ridge and vein in his cock.
It's not
Jesus
that
Christ.
sensitive.
How fucking big are these veins? Just where? He's got like a
Ribbed for your
fucking
pleasure.
Hulk cock.
Also,
Why does it have ridge? Why does it have ridges? What has he got, like a fucking? He doesn't have like a dog dick. Like it doesn't have
Maybe
like
he-
the knot thing in it.
maybe he does. Oh,
It
that.
didn't say that.
I don't
though.
want to think about knotting right now. We don't need to get into knotting. No.
You're welcome.
No, I'm past that point. I have learned all I need to know and need to learn no more.
Oh God, what was I reading? Ridge and vein in his cock. Yep. He withdrew nearly completely before he began sinking in again. When he started getting into a rhythm, I started getting into it with him. Okay, moving my hips to match his thrusts. I hooked my legs behind his knees and gripped his sides tightly, giving him a look to urge him on. He began picking up speed, driving to greater heights of pleasure.
Do you get it?
My
They're
body
doing the
started
thing.
to.
They're having the
He's
missionary
putting-
sex that he
he's-
never has. This is so romantic.
Oh,
His-
so
he
romantic!
deigns
Oh
to
my
look
god!
at this woman.
Jesus fucking Christ.
My goodness.
My body started to become more active, writhing about on the ground underneath him. I'm envisioning that gif of, the child on the ground that's going, ah!
Ah. I'm just generally picturing like a spider. Someone between a spider and a seizure. Just be like, I'm writhing.
I wrapped my arms and legs tighter around him, trying to envelop him completely. I wanted as much of him in me as I could get. Hold on, one moment. Bo, stop chewing the carpet.
Is this a good point to point out that she has a kinky dog? We're reading about kinky dog.
No, let's not talk about my kinky dogs. Both of you get away from the carpet now. God damn it. I'm trying to read porn here. You're being very distracting.
Her chihuahua has a foot fetish.
Yeah, well, look, he's special, all right. He's mummy's special little boy. All right. What was I talking about? This writhing. You get away from that carpet. I see you going for it. You know what? Come here. Come here. You're gonna sit with me while I read the porn. There we go. All right. What am I gonna get? I heard sounds coming from my own mouth as beginning to pick up in volume. I realized he was actually about to make me orgasm, something that had almost never happened to me during sex before, definitely not with Lawson. I came with a shriek, clawing at his back and thrashing my legs about. He stopped his thrusting while my pussy convulsed around him. I felt my teeth changing shape, extending to lupine fangs, and my fingernails hardened into claws as they dug into his skin. When my orgasm passed and I got my shape back under control, I paused to catch my breath, while I continued to savor the fullness of him inside me. "Do you need to stop?" he asked me. On that, I looked up at him and grabbed hold of his face. "Don't you dare!" I launched myself... Wham! I launched myself up at him, smothering him in a volcanic kiss. I rose up with enough force to roll us over and bring myself on top of him. Now I took over the motion duties, churning my hips on his lap, leaning forward while supporting myself with my hands on his chiseled pectorals. My mouth hung open, letting out my pleasured gasps as I stared at his face, seeing him grinning with what almost looked like pride.
They were so dirty. She was lying in the ground and now she's on top. Like, dirt's just gonna be like raining off her.
Yeah, one of them's gonna get a fucking infection of some kind. Probably gonna be her.
She's gonna get a UTI.
Yeah. His hands reached up to grab my breasts, and his thumbs began massaging my stiff nipples. I groaned aloud and straightened up, rolling my head back as I luxuriated in what he was doing to me. I was starting to remember something that I had long since forgotten, what it meant to call someone a lover, not an alpha, not an owner, not someone who was trying to simply take pleasure from me, but someone who wanted to share it with me, someone who wanted to give it. This is the longest fucking sex scene I've ever read in my goddamn life. I don't know, maybe it just feels longer, but it feels long.
It feels
like,
long.
just get it over with, you two. That thought in mind, as well, the combined stimulation of his hands kneading my breasts and his cock filling me up inside was quickly driving me to another orgasm. I reached a hand down to my stop saying slit, to complete the trifecta. What a sexy word, trifecta. Proceeding to rub my fingers over my now very erect clit. Erect? It's like it's not a little penis.
I mean, technically it is. Apparently, it can.
It's just not a word I would use.
It's an odd description of it, at least. Like, physically...
It sounds like it's going, whoop!
Like, it does grow, but, again...
Also, can I just say,
Yes.
Why is she doing to herself? You have a whole-ass man beneath you, doing absolutely nothing. Like, you're doing literally all of the work, and he can't even bring himself to, like, touch you? Come on, man! This guy's so fucking lazy.
You don't want a lazy lover.
No, he's just starfishing. That's what he's doing right now.
He is starfishing. She's actually... Because she's moving. She's doing all the movement as well.
Yeah, exactly. When I came again, I collapsed forward atop him, continuing to move my hips, gripping his head. My second orgasm wasn't as intense as the first, and I came down from it faster. But not long after that I heard him making the telltale grunting sounds, and soon felt his seed splashing inside me. I
Lovely.
finally stopped moving and rolled off of him to the side. Yeah, I'm guessing they didn't bring a condom into the woods.
Well, they would have
While
had to
he
carry
cradled
it,
me
like, in their dog pockets.
in their mouth. Yuck. Softly kissing me and tenderly caressing my breast. He lifted his head up and stared down at me. You're so different. Oh, God. She's not
Oh,
like other
no.
girls, guys. She's not like other girls.
She's not like other girls. She's black.
Oh, yikes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mocha.
Yeah, fucking hell. Different than what? Every woman I've been with since I left my pack. Every one of them was nothing but a sperm
Ew!
receptacle.
Ew!
Yuck. I'm sorry, but if a man you're with ever refers to another woman as a sperm receptacle, kick that motherfucker to the curb. Jesus Christ. But you, I finally found a real she-wolf after all these years. I smiled and kissed him. So, I said, do I get to see your big banker's mansion now? For a beat, he looked a little disappointed, but then he thought and said, well, if that's what the lady wants. We disengaged from each other and got up on all fours, as in 4 paws. Yeah, I got that. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for clarifying that. We loped back across the trail we'd taken through the woods, back to the car. When we emerged from the trees, we shifted back to 2 legs, snatched up our clothes off the ground, and climbed into his car without putting them on. Ugh, you're just driving naked? Somehow he managed to drive us to his house without anyone getting a good enough look at us to realize we were in the car naked. Well, at least I think no one noticed.
You're dirtying
left
up
our
the
clothes-
car. I'm so offended. Keep
I'm
the
sure
car
he has
clean.
people to do that.
Keep the
To
car out
clean
of
it up
this.
for him.
Because also, I'm going to write a book called Unsexy Sex to point out things like, you know what's really uncomfortable? Having to clean yourself up afterwards. And you know what they didn't do? That. So she's just like sitting in the sticky in the car, naked, in the dirt. That's just like such a pleasant image. I know this is the unsexy thing to think about and the shit that you just like hand wave away with romance novels, but Jesus, like this book isn't making it easy.
It's like people who have sex on the beach in books. I'm like, what are you doing?
Uncomfortable.
There's so much sex and
Dead paper.
so much chafing. Oh my God, please stop.
Has
Not even
anyone-
like on a towel or on a blanket, just in the sand.
I would actually like to speak to someone that's had sex on a beach because I've never been game. I want to know what that is like, but just not, personally.
Yeah, no, I'll pass on that one, thanks.
If anyone has ever actually had sex on the beach and is watching this, please leave a comment down below and describe what it's actually like.
In excruciating detail.
Oh, please do.
We left our clothes in the car when he pulled into his big curved driveway. That's all. Not all that's big and curved. Anyway. And walked through his big doors. Everything is big. I took a moment to marvel at his wide marble-floored lobby, his plush-carpeted stairs, the crystal chandelier that hung over our heads, but only a moment. Impressed, he asked, not sounding like he expected much. I turned an impish grin to him and said, "Think you can catch me?" And then I shifted to 4 legs and ran off through the house. I still couldn't believe how liberating it felt to be 4-legged again after so long. I had been afraid for such a long time. To not be afraid seemed almost strange. I felt freer than I'd ever been in my life. I found my way into his living room and hopped up on the sofa. I lay down on it Sphinx style and waited for him. Moments later, he came loping on 4 legs into the room, and I shifted back to my human shape, laying provocatively on the couch, giving my best bedroom eyes to the fur-covered beast in front of me. "You gonna tell me to get off the furniture?" I joked. He padded forward before shifting back to 2 legs.
I don't know if that was genuinely funny or like funny at it. I don't know.
At this point, we'll take anything. "You'd better not," he said, climbing on with me. I spread my legs, already wet and ready for more. Did she turn back into a person or Okay.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I spread my legs, already wet and ready for more, and he guided himself between them. Oh, yes! I hissed as he slid inside.
Oh my god.
Why, there's so many S's!
Yes. She's a
Yes.
snake. She's a wolf and a snake.
Jesus Christ. Alright,
I
how
also,
long
like, what's happened to her personality? She's gone from, oh no, I'm fucking everything up, I'm awkward, I'm clumsy. They have sex once, and she's like, I'm the impish temptress.
I'm a scamp! Oh, God.
Like, again, their relationship is suddenly like they've known each other for days, but it's been like, what, an hour? I don't know how long they were fucking.
Who knows?
But we made it to the
well,
end of
chapter 4
3.
doesn't look too... Chapter 4
yeah.
doesn't look too long if you want to do that one and then finish up.
Sure. Let's
That'd
do
be a
chapter
solid 2 hours.
Nice.
Ish.
I've not been keeping track. We've been going for an hour and a half so far.
Yeah, we started at 9:30, so...
Sweet. Chapter 4. Still without a space. We spent pretty much the whole night fucking up a storm. We could bang each other senseless, then recover our senses and go running around the house on 4 legs until we found another place to fuck. And then we shift back to 2 legs and get back to business. So that's just a funny sentence. When we finished on the couch, Zoe shifted and ran off to another room. I shifted as well and found her in the kitchen with the fridge standing open while she lay on the central island in her 2-legged form, spreading strawberry jam all over her body. I hopped up.
I'm sorry, what?
And she left
Sticky.
the fridge open. Bitch is gonna be
What is
cold.
wrong with these people?
I hopped up on the island and began lapping it off her while still on my 4-legged body, making her giggle and moan before I shifted back to 2 legs and proceeded to fuck her some more. The line between just, like, human sex, furry sex, and bestiality is getting
Of course
increasingly
you get
blurred.
the abridged version of all these sex scenes, though. It's like, oh, and then they fucked some more. No, I have to read the excruciatingly detailed sex scenes.
Yeah, you have to read the word slit a lot.
Yep, that's my life now.
Mm-hmm. You're the slit master.
Yeah, that's the title I want.
I choose to slit shame.
Ew.
It makes no sense, I just wanted to say that pun.
Very good.
After that, we headed off to the downstairs bathroom to shower. Downstairs bathroom to shower, that makes no sense. We ended up doing very little actual washing, but the glass wall definitely got a workout from the way Zoe's face and tits were pressed against it as I plowed her from behind. Then she was up for some more 4-legged chasing, in which I had to chase her up the stairs before she jumped me on the landing overlooking the front door, and we rolled around on the floor in our fur before shifting back to skin, and she rode me to an orgasm or two right there.
Jesus Christ.
I had never tried.
Still doing an awful lot of fucking. They're gonna get, like, chafing pretty soon.
Yeah, and also, like, what's his refractory period like? Or does he get over that because he's a dog? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to ask.
Yes. I had never tried fucking a woman while carrying her in my arms as I walked before. There's a good reason for that. It's awful. Like, and surely incredibly difficult. Anyway, and I can't say it was something I'm particularly inclined to try again, but at that point we just couldn't keep our hands off each other long enough to wait until we got to my bed. Once entwined in my sheets, we tried every position we could think of for hours on end. Ultimately, she was in the middle of riding me, cowgirl style, when she happened to look up to my window and say, "Is that the sun coming up?" "I think it is," I laughed. After I emptied my ball sack into her for the 6th time that night.
Oh. Except for not being it. Jesus Christ.
After I emptied my ball sack into her for the 6th time that night, bracket, except for it not being night anymore, end bracket, we finally decided we were spent. We had to get back to the office in a couple hours anyway. We straightened ourselves up the best as we could. I didn't exactly keep a woman's hairbrush around the house. and went outside, got dressed in my car, and drove off. We tried to remain
It's just called a brush.
It's just a hairbrush.
Doesn't need to be a woman's hairbrush. Just own a brush.
You telling me he doesn't own a single brush?
Apparently.
So I could believe it.
Apparently the millionaire doesn't own a brush.
This guy's a dropkick. We tried to remain inconspicuous when we got off the elevator, keeping a fair amount of distance between us and not looking at each other directly. But Zoe couldn't conceal the spring in her step, and when she passed Theo on the way to her desk, she chirped, "Good morning, Mr. Clark," in a sing-song tone. Theo stared at her as she went to sit down, humming to herself as she began going through her stack of papers. Then he looked back at me and said, "Is it just me, or is those the same clothes as she had on yesterday?" I shrugged. I hadn't noticed. Suddenly, Theo started staring pointedly at my face, tilting his head slightly. He looked back and forth between Zoe and me, and then pointed at her while looking at me wide-eyed. "Did you tap that?" "Not saying a word," I said, continuing on to my office. It wasn't until I flopped down in my chair that fatigue from the sleepless night finally began to set in. I went through a few sales figures and made a few phone calls, and then I must have dozed off. The next thing I remember is suddenly jerking awake with the feeling of warm, wet suction in my crotch. I looked down to see a mass of frizzled hair in my lap before Zoe realized I was awake and looked up at me, smiling around her mouthful of my cock.
Okay.
Lovely.
I mean, if he's not conscious, pretty sure that's assault. But anyway.
Yeah. Not cool.
What?
It's just weird. You're at work. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's illegal. But anyway, you get fired for that.
I mean, he's not gonna fire her. Actually, I don't know.
Not for that blowjob.
Ugh. Wow, you're something. She giggled in her throat but continued filleting me. She sucked me to completion and guzzling my spending down her throat and pumping my length with her hand to draw out every drop. "You're going to drain me to death before I'm 40, I mused. "There are worse ways to go," she grinned. "And you're pretty damn good at that, and eager, too." She turned her head, looking introspective. "My alpha used to force me to do that for him. I've never had the chance to do it willingly until now." Again! Just gotta bring up the rape. Always. Can we just not have the rape? For a bit, please?
That would be nice. Yes, I would prefer that. Much preferred to not include the rape, but here we are.
Forces us to go from the sexy imagery to the unsexy imagery, you know?
Yeah.
That actually impressed me. I would have expected her to shy away from doing something that was once forced upon her, not willing to be reminded of the painful memories it brought up. But she was braving her past and finding the strength to let herself enjoy this. Yikes. Can I give that sentence a yikes? The whole little chunk.
Yeah.
Ay, it's just not good. Not good.
Yep. I'm just gonna force myself through my trauma and enjoy sucking dick, as you do.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just gonna move on. I don't have the words for that one. Nope.
Don't really want to process that any more than we already have.
Nope. I took her face in my hands, directing her to look at me before I brought to me. And kissed her. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think it's a typo. It's a typo,
Cool.
Yeah.
I let her go back to her work after that. You let her go back to her work. Fine.
Yep.
I really should have gotten back to mine.
He's the man. He's in charge.
Mm-hmm. But I had a little too much on my mind. After I sat there contemplating things for an hour or so, I made a decision and I got up and I walked to Theo's office. Theo was standing in front of Zoe's desk, going over some reports with her when I walked in. "Hey, Marco, my man, what's up?" I'm doing the wrong voice, but I don't care. Theo, I said, I'd like to speak to you about Zoe. Both of them looked at me with curiosity. Why? What's the problem? Did she give you the wrong report again or something? I took a breath and said, I don't think she should be your secretary anymore. Zoe looked completely devastated. Theo just looked confused, looking back and forth between us again. Hey, come on!
Let me guess. She's gonna be my secretary now.
The sound bites never sound legit, but I don't care. Yeah, I want her to be my secretary. Okay.
Yeah, we're literally a line down. Yes, okay. That's where this is going.
Alright, Theo just looked confused, looking back and forth between us. Hey, come on. I know what I said yesterday, but I still want to give her a chance before I drop the axe, you know? I held a hand up to silence him. I want her to be my secretary. Zoe's face brightened in an instant, and suddenly she climbed up on her desk and leapt at me, throwing her arms around my neck and knocking me back into the wall, which I hit with a loud thump. The fuck? That's just... She's sitting behind her desk. She climbs onto her desk. She stands on the desk, and she jumps at her boss, and they together go and they hit a wall. Like, there's a witness there. What does he think of that?
It's just like, aight. Whatever.
He's too high to give a shit.
Let me know if you need anything. A snack? A condom?
Theo's eyes were about to bug out of his head as he watched Zoe plant a wet kiss on my cheek and then hurry to her desk to gather up her things. Goodbye, Mr. Clark, she chimed before prancing out the door. Theo blinked several times, looking like he was trying to work out exactly what had just happened. He staggered up to me, and in an almost whisper he said, Was she that good in the sack? I gave him a proud, conspiratorial grin. You have no idea. I left him standing there.
You have no idea.
It's just... I left him standing there, gaping at the way the world had gone wacky at him. When I got back to the door of my office, I could smell that she was already inside. I opened the door, instantly noticed the discarded clothes that lay on my sofa. I didn't see her immediately, even though I could smell her in the room. You couldn't possibly, I said, shutting the door behind me. As soon as the door was shut, this beautiful four-legged creature appeared from behind my desk and whined at me. You know, at some point we probably should get back to some actual work today, I pointed out. She gave me a very effective sad puppy look with a pleading whine. I sighed and locked the door. I never could resist a she-wolf giving me that look. When I started to strip, her tongue happily rolled out. I undressed.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, right? It's just stop mixing the human and animals. Keep it one or the other, please. I undressed, got down on four paws, and we rushed to meet each other, tumbling around the floor in a tangle of flying fur and loving bites. I might as well have moved into... We swapped perspective. I didn't even notice. We swapped perspective.
Yep, very suddenly. There's a star there.
I might as well have moved into Marco's house for all the time I spent there after that. After just one day, we hardly spent any time apart from each other at all. We shared the same office at work and the same bed at night, though quite often we ended up sleeping outside, curled together in the dirt. True to our wolf natures, we rarely, if ever, wore clothes around the house. Either we were humping like the wild animals we were, or we were lounging about in our birthday suits, whether that meant our skin or our fur. We made good use of his pool and hot tub, as well as his private theatre room, which I must say I was quite impressed by. We burned through my whole collection of steamy movies on that thing, and a few more of his, usually while sharing martinis or champagne from the room's private bar. Soon, I realized I had opened a floodgate, because once I started allowing myself to become four-legged again, I simply couldn't get enough of it. I began shifting form at every opportunity I could find. Fortunately, Marco's house allowed plenty of room for me to run around, both inside and out. When Marco and I weren't having sex or doing other fairly human things, we spent plenty of time chasing each other's tails, quite literally. I feel like that could just be the end of the book. The end. Done.
Jesus Christ. The end. What else is there?
Well, that's the end of chapter 4, and we're now, like, yeah, halfway through the book. That's half.
I'm gonna assume her horrible abuser comes back. That seems to be where it's
Oh, yeah,
headed.
she's being chased by her pack. It's gotta be something, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yikes. Also, do you know what I
All
just
right.
realized? So, I think that was, like, it was the first time I at least noticed her using his name. They were never introduced to each other. They never shared, like, they never actually swapped names.
Hi, my name is such and such. Yeah.
We know that they knew each other's names because she worked in his office and he had, like, the other guy told him her name, but they never met. They didn't have a meet cute. They just had a meet stare. They stared at each other across the
They just had a meet. They had a meeting.
They had an MEAT meeting.
Oh God! Why do they have to keep making out while they've been eating raw flesh? It's just.
Do you reckon, like, have you
It's like
ever
zombies
had
in
sex
love.
right after eating? Do you reckon?
No.
I was about to say, like,
Probably not.
it's not comfortable. There's food in there. You need time to digest it. But, like,
It's like going swimming after eating.
any kind of physical activity right after eating. Not comfy. And that's what they're doing. This is such a weird book.
It's a very weird book. I could see myself reading the rest of it though. Like, if
Yeah.
we want to come back to it. It's not quite as horrendous as the other one. Rough and Ready.
Yeah, Rough and Ready was rough. And not very ready.
Yeah, not ready. It's rough and we're not ready.
Yeah.
Alright.
Less racism in this one. Still some.
Definitely.
Minor racism. Not as bad as the other one with, like, the Cajun person. That was bad.
No, fewer racial stereotypes. But still not great.
Mm.
Though I did enjoy the guy that moonwalks everywhere. That was interesting. Well, until he was very, very what's the word for it? Workplace harassment-y?
Yes. He's just, I mean, he was at the beginning too. Like, what, he offered the other coworker up on a platter to the main protagonist. But like, you actually gonna talk to this one again? Tee hee hee.
God. Yeah. Alright. Shall we call it there?
I think we should call it there. This is,
That's a pretty good effort. 4 chapters. It's more than we got of Rough and Ready. Fuck.
yeah, we got through 4 chapters of it, and yeah, it's about halfway through the book. 21 out of 40 pages. I do
Nice.
like that romance / erotica is often quite short.
Yes. It keeps it like quick and snappy.
Yeah. The downside is that that generally means there's no plot, which there isn't. There is very little plot happening so far. And again, they've known each other for less than 24 hours.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, no,
Like
we've actually we've had the time skip in that last like paragraph, but other than that, yeah, we covered about 24 hours in 3 chapters.
yeah, probably isn't more than say like a week, maybe 2.
Yeah. Oh well. C'est la vie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's erotica. I expect nothing.
So yes, that was
Preferably less rape, but you know, can't have everything, I guess.
yeah. I haven't looked. So yeah, I've compiled up a nice little library of potential books that we can read. Some of them are very yikes. Hopefully, mostly in a fun way. Some of them probably not.
We shall see.
We shall see. I am keen to get onto them. But yes, that was Seduced by the Wall Street Werewolf. Part 1. Hopefully we'll get onto a part 2. And for
Who knows?
now, I think we're out.